From Austin, Texas to Essex, England, once again, it is the Slipstream Podcast, episode 002. And James, we've got ourselves a banger. First of all, I'm your host, Andrew Dalton. I've got my man, James Lingfield here, joining me once again.
What's going on, guys?
What is going on? How you doing? Nice to see you. Say hi to your mother for me. You know, say hi to you.
Yeah, hi. Of course. Hi, Mum, if you're listening. Sorry that your son is 21 years old and hasn't got a job, but he's got an F1 podcast.
He's got an F1 podcast. Also, he's
swings and roundabouts.
You know, he goes to Oxford too, so like maybe cut him some slack. You know, a little bit.
Well, hopefully, job is pending after that. You know, give me like 6 months more to be a degenerate uni, and then
I swear I'll
pay
you
rent.
Get a little time.
I swear it's coming.
You get time. You get till you're 22 to be just an outright degenerate, as much as you get it out of your system. And then once you're 22,
yes, sir.
Hang it up. Once you're 22, it's time to join the real world. James, we've got a banger race this weekend. I feel like it was tailor made to the fact that we're starting a podcast. I called at the FIA this weekend, spoke to the president, and actually was Skyped into race control all weekend, and they were saying, hey, listen, listen, Andrew, we know that you're starting this podcast, this Slipstream, and we're gonna do our best to give you, just a crazy race this weekend, just to kind of help kick it off, christen it, as you will, with as if it was some sort of maiden voyage on a ship.
I am glad, because like I was thinking back to last season. I was like, God, what if we have to find 45 minutes? Like, let's say we started this after Sochi last year. Like, oh yeah, do you remember when the guy on pole got off the line and then just led for the next hour and a half? Wasn't that exciting?
Hey, remember when?
No, we did not get that.
Abu Dhabi is like the worst for just like an actual race. You're just like, hey, look at all these cars match their exact predicted pace for 45 laps, and you just have to watch it. It's like, and it's not even, and there's yachts, but it's like, it's just like a bougie. It's not like Monaco cool. Monaco's like, there's yachts everywhere, but like also you might see like Kurt Russell in the stands, or you might see like Gordon Ramsay with a pit gun for whatever reason. Like Gordon Ramsay is just there, just like, your pit stops are garbage. You're like, Monaco's cool. It's got that kind of prestige about it. Abu Dhabi is just like cheap, bougie. It's not cheap. I shouldn't say cheap, but like, like Instagram. It's like the Instagram influencer of races. Really, there's just it looks expensive, but the's not really anything of value there. You're just.
Do you think that's what went on with Valtteri's pit stops? They had like Gordon Ramsay, like, Valtteri, your pace is shit, and like he's on the front right trying to work the gun.
Yeah, actually, Gordon Ramsay is just like looking over the pit crew's shoulders, like, you're gonna cook it like that, and then they're just like, hey man, this is a pit stop. This is not a kitchen. I think you're in the wrong place. And he's like, oh yeah, right. You're completely right about that. You know
who I think could get on well with Gordon Ramsay? Gunther Steiner. I could see them two being buddies. That would be a comedy duo I'd be willing to watch.
I think Gunther's a good cook, man. I bet he's a good cook. I bet he's great in the kitchen.
Great in the kitchen, but I think if you speak to him while he's preparing it, he will just fly off the handle. He needs absolute utter stillness and silence. Yeah, and then he'll cook up like a 4-course. Like delicacy. Yeah, I could see that.
That's actually what Haas needs. Is they need some sort of like kitchen nightmare scenario where Gordon Ramsay walks into their garage and just starts critiquing everything, because Haas would be the team just like Kitchen Nightmares, where Gordon Ramsay shows up and they just keep doing the same shit they've always done, as if Gordon Ramsay will be okay with it. They'll just be like, hey, so we only brought 2 front wings this weekend. What do you think about that? And Gordon Ramsay's like, I wouldn't do that to my dog. Okay, like, well, yeah, that's what we got to work with.
That impression is dead on. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, it's in the room. That's creepy.
Yeah, owner, and it works too, because the owner's a little bit delusional. Gene Haas, a little bit delusional. If you asked him what's going on, he's like, well, this is a great team. So, I think there's a lot of parallels there. It could really work. But anyway, back on track. Mercedes looking scared this weekend, and you love to see it. You love to see Mercedes actually on their back foot a little bit, on their heels, kind of having to use their strategy instead of their outright brute strength. And I got to tell you, that's probably my favorite part about the whole weekend, was finally approaching a race where Mercedes is not just the outright favorite, and they had to actually pull some tricks out of their bag to get it done. And they did. Lewis Hamilton walked a really great tightrope act there where he made his making his tire stretch and making his strategies work, and just being a robot. We saw a lot of video of him crossing those track limits on turn 4, but the coolest thing I thought about was how he was crossing them the same way every single time, and I'm sure all the drivers were, but just watching him drive is amazing, and it's just like a really fun thing to do. But I just liked seeing Toto. Like, I liked the shots where it cut to Toto and he just was kind of like concerned. You could kind of tell that he was like, okay, well, this isn't our like ideal situation. And he's even on the record as saying that Honda has a more powerful engine seemingly than Mercedes this year. So it's what I like to see. It's kind of what I expected. And so, yeah, what are your thoughts on that whole deal?
I think you could tell that Mercedes were genuinely worried. But whenever like Lewis used to win, you'd hear his radio be like very calm from Bono, like, get in there, Lewis, great drive. But he'd cross the line. It was like, get in there, Lewis, yes.
Yeah.
Like they were not. I actually believe them that they weren't expecting to win that.
Yeah.
I don't know if actually I believe this myself, but do you think it would be reasonable to say that Mercedes actually didn't nail the strategy and that Lewis sort of saved the strategy by, I mean, he was on his first stint in hards for, a very short time. That didn't seem intentional. Mm-hmm. And then he was left out on his second stint for so long.
Yeah.
I almost feel like that was far more Lewis winning that race rather than the strategists.
Yeah.
And I think converted to that, it's almost like, do you know what the phrase bottling is? It's a very like English phrase.
Yeah.
It's sort of like choking.
Yeah.
I was surprised that he had such a pace differential for so long. And then he got within sort of 2 seconds and he couldn't close it anymore. And I know obviously that's partly down to things like dirty air and temperature and things like that. But did he gun it too hard? Did he get overexcited? Did he not manage his battery or something like that?
Are you talking about Max?
It seemed like this. Max, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
It seemed like he should have won that, and I don't quite understand why he didn't.
I think Mercedes, I don't think it was necessarily like they didn't stick to their strategy. I think they were just kind of seeing what stuck, and I think they probably made some calls. I don't have conclusive proof of this, but it feels like just watching, they made some calls during the race to try to keep Red Bull behind them, try to find the advantage wherever it could. They undercut and pulled off that undercut, which is crucial at Bahrain anyway. And they probably were already, expecting to have to execute an undercut at some point. But it was either Lewis or Max to go in first, and I forget at which pit stop it was. But Lewis had him by, I think Lewis was, they were within 2 seconds of each other. Max and Lewis, and they had to execute the undercut at some point. But at the end there, I know that they really just ran Max's energy dry. I mean, basically what they were doing is just trying to run him ragged. It happened, and it worked when Max actually had to overheat his tires going for that last undertake. I believe it was right after he had to give the position back. So, I mean, he basically used up his tires because they were both all, just on the bleeding edge with those things, those last few laps. So I think it was a deal where he just ran out of juice. Yeah, dirty air, a lot of those things. But yeah, strategy wise, I think they were just trying to call some shots during the race and figure out what worked. They just looked. It was just nice, kind of seeing them, kind of bustle about and instead of just being like, we're 10 seconds out this time. But I don't think you could have asked for a better like closing 3 laps. That was incredible. Closing 5.
Oh no, that was so good.
Whatever. But the fact that he was, Max was able to come back after that pit stop and catch up to him like that, I think kind of shows what's going on with Honda. I would have liked to have seen more. I'm a little disappointed in the AlphaTauri cars and the fact that they weren't able to really kind of showcase. Yeah, I mean, Yuki debuts P9. But Gasly had that incident. I believe it was with Seb or somebody like that. Was it with Seb? I think it was. I don't know.
I thought it was Ferraris, wasn't it?
Was it a Ferrari? He lost his wing to somebody.
One of the Ferraris,
I want to say it's Seb. I think it was
Seb was nowhere near the front for a long time.
Yeah, that's true.
That doesn't matter.
Gasly lost his front wing, and so he was just kind of recovering the whole time. But yeah, great weekend, great race all around. I'm gonna have to Honda fanboy again this episode and just talk about how impressed I am with just the fact that Red Bull appears to have the faster engine this year. It just looks like they have the faster engine. Yeah. I'm just excited by that because I haven't seen it in the time that I've been a fan of the sport. So I think their car looks great. I think they paid for what they got. I think they're getting what they paid for with Checo. Pit lane to P5 is a pretty cool thing, and kind of the underrated story of the weekend, even though he did get driver of the day, really not mentioned a lot. But he started from the pit lane, ended P5, and it was kind of like a secure Grand Prix redo in a way, just coming back from dead last. And, it was just neat seeing that happen. And I think that's exactly what Red Bull paid for. That's what they're getting with him. I think that's why they went with somebody like him. And seeing their car now and their package now, you can kind of tell that they probably knew what kind of a car they were going to have, and they needed to exploit that car with that second seat as much as possible instead of having somebody that might be a bit of a gamble this season.
Yeah. I think it would have been really cool to see. Because at the moment, it's very much set up as Max versus Lewis, and then by implication, then Valtteri versus Checo.
Yeah,
and I think it would have been interesting to see who'd have won that fight. Bottas had like a very forgettable race. He was away behind the top two.
Yeah.
But actually, when he crossed when he took the checker flag, his engineer said sort of, "Sorry for letting you down on the pit stops, but your pace was good enough to have won that."
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. Is that his engineer being kind? I don't know. But I mean, looking at his pure, just like average lap time, he was second Sunday, sorry. And then obviously that's partly caused by him coming in at the end, doing some faster laps at the end. But his overall pace was quite good. I think his season is going to be sacrificed a bit this season. I think he's going to be used as a strategical pawn.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
Which is a shame, because I don't think he's a bad driver. And I would like to see him have a fair shot. Imagine if all four of the Red Bull and the Merc drivers were genuinely challenging for wins. But I couldn't see that for me. I think both teams will prioritize Max and Lewis.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I mean, they're going to prioritize them. But I think when it comes down to it, if something happens in a race or one of those drivers are faster than Max or Lewis, they're gonna exploit that. And I think at the end of the day, Checo's a better driver than Bottas. I gotta say, I just think he's a better driver.
Probably.
I like his odds more for some reason. Just Checo versus Bottas. If it was a spec 1v1, just all things being equal, I think Checo wins that most of the time. Bottas with a really unimpressive race. That was just 38 seconds behind, something like that. Let me see. Yeah,
just really
37 seconds behind Lewis.
I mean, obviously that was partly because of the pit stop at the end to get the fastest lap and the slow stop.
10.9 seconds.
First or second? Yeah.
Second pit stop, 10.9 seconds, which is crazy.
That is really bad luck.
That's really bad. He had another bad one. A lot of parallels with Sakir last year because his he's botching it, the last two races. If you count last season, he's getting botched pit stops all the time. That's got to be pretty frustrating. Kind of like two races in a row. So it's like, hey, guys.
Like what is it with Sakir and Mercedes, who are normally, it's so weird because they are not normally impeccable. The pit stops are not they're rarely the fastest on the grid, but they are solid. Well, actually, you say that. I mean, Valtteri's first stop was lightning, wasn't it? It was really quick.
Yeah.
And then obviously the second stop was so bad that just completely took him out of the race. I think the gap might have been exaggerated because if I'm so far behind the top two and so far ahead of the going fourth, I'm not going to kill myself. I'm not going to really push the engine because obviously, you can only use so many engines through a season. It's not worth adding sort of an extra 2 or 3% of wear to the engine when you could just wait and chill out and take that third spot.
Yeah, and you know that if you're also an avid player of the F1 2020 game.
Yes, of course.
You get to China and your engine's flamed out. You're like, this is the third race of the season. I don't know what's going on. This is
the thing. You may as well just pedal at that point. When you just well, actually, speaking of the F1 game, the F1 game brings up a very interesting question in terms of track limits.
Yeah,
which of course was a hot topic at Sakir. What did you make of that?
I don't, I'm one of the ones I don't think it was really as big of a deal as it was made out to be. I think people just like to see controversy and drama on Twitter and stuff like that, as they are wont to do. But the simple fact is that everyone was crossing those track limits all day, not just Lewis. Every single driver was exploiting those. Lewis was going. The difference between Lewis and everybody else was, when he got called for it, lap 27 or whatever, he was going about a foot or two to the left farther than everybody else. But everybody was still crossing those track limits, and Max crossed them in the middle of an overtake. So, which is clearly you're gaining an advantage on another car on track, not necessarily a time advantage because everybody was doing that. But I don't think it was a big deal. I think there may have been some perceptions where people, they were changing rules mid race, but they really weren't. They set that in the drivers meeting Friday with everybody. So I don't think it was a big deal. I think you hear a lot of talk back on the radio from drivers that will question things in the moment, and somehow that'll spin off into drama on the Twitterverse. But I didn't think it was a big deal. I don't think it was a big deal at all. One person was overtaking and one person wasn't at the same corner. So that's all it is.
I guess then I wonder just why was it that Lewis got why was Lewis taking such a wide line than everyone else? I don't know whether that was a purposeful thing or and then also why was Lewis showing the black and white flag? Was it purely because they felt like they were pushing the track limits too far?
I'm not sure what the black and white flag thing was. I know that Lewis he pushes limits. I mean, a lot of those guys do. Obviously, you're in a rocket ship, so you have to. But he is a guy that will push up on the walls of the rules and kind of see where those limits are. You're talking about a guy that went out of the pit lane to do a practice start in Russia last year, which is was it Russia where he did that? I think so, where Valtteri won because Lewis had that whole time penalty that he had to serve into the pits, and it's why do you even have to do that, man? Oh, there's extra rubber in the pit box. It's because that's where you practice your starts at. But for some reason, he was just I think I'm gonna go out here on track where any one of these cars coming out of the pit lane could just destroy me while I'm trying to do a practice start. So I think he just does that from time to time. He's a weird dude. I think he's probably a pretty weird dude where he tries stuff and you're just hey man, what are you doing? But he's the Kanye West of race drivers. So he just kind of does stuff. You're just all right, well, I guess
it's like his music career. Have you ever heard Lewis Hamilton sing?
I try not to.
You actively avoid it. Okay.
Being a musician myself, I really don't need to. That's fine. You know what? I'm fine with Lewis Hamilton, the race driver. I really don't need Lewis Hamilton, the musician. Because it's just not going to be the same. Hey, I'm all for people pursuing hobbies and doing things that make them happy. Knock yourself out. I don't need the. It's just, I don't think it's going to be the same quality as Lewis, the race driver. Lewis, the musician, hey, man, it's fine. Have your fun.
Cool. He could literally do anything he wanted and just pull it off. That's just Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
He's so just ice cold and cool and fashionable in anything he does.
Yeah.
And he's not, for the record, look, I have no professional musical opinion. I thought he was fine. Not great, not The best thing I can say to him, my friend played it for me a while ago.
Yeah.
So what do you think of this? I was it's decent. He was oh, that's Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
If I'd have heard that on the radio, I'd just presumed it was any sort of other pop song.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fine. Am I a little salty because I had to, build my music career from scratch and learn how to do it from scratch without millions and millions of dollars? A little bit. I'm a little,
Very much so.
Look, am I a little vindictive that, multi-millionaires, almost billionaires get to, just kind of like a grandfather in a little bit of a side music career that has already in 1 week grossed more than I ever will in my entire life? Yeah, a little bit. I'm a little bit.
Of course.
It's
crazy hearing like celebrities that had. I never knew. So I'm obviously we come from sort of different generations. I never knew Mark Wahlberg was a rapper. That's like a crazy thing.
We do come from different generations, man. That's insane.
I was like, Marky Mark, who the hell is that?
Yeah.
I thought it was like a wind up, like a sketch on a show.
Yeah.
I listened to it like, good Lord, this is terrible.
Early 90s.
Really
baby.
not good. It didn't. Yeah, that 90s rap was something. If it wasn't good in 90s rap, it was terrible.
Yeah.
It was so eye-wateringly bad.
Yeah.
But then welcome to the Slipstream podcast where we discuss Formula One and 90s rap.
Oh man, let's do it, dude. I watched let's cover it all, baby. Hey, welcome to the Slipstream. We're gonna talk about Formula One and 90s rap, and also bringing back the Jasmine Rice theme from last week. No, we'll keep that. We'll keep the Jasmine Rice in next week. I listened to or watched the Biggie documentary, the Notorious B.I.G. Documentary on Netflix last night. That was great.
Oh. What's it called? I don't know if it's streamed.
It was amazing. It was amazing because any documentary that's like really well done like that, they'll have the producers and the guys that they worked with back in the day, and they'll enter anytime anybody has a documentary like that where it's like about somebody that was like iconic status in the art world and the music world. They'll always have like with musicians, they'll have like one old like jazz guy that's always just like, yeah, I met Notorious B.I.G. and here's how his rhyme style works. And there's just like this old jazz guy talking about how Biggie raps with the same cadence of like a bebop jazz drummer. And then they like put a bebop drummer and then B.I.G. next to each other and then like overlaid his rap of just like him in a radio station just freestyling over like a bebop jazz drum solo. And you're just like,
oh, that's so cool, man.
Okay, I'd never even heard. So like anytime you can see a documentary, highly recommend it because it'll make you look at an artist that you've heard hundreds of times in just a completely new light. It's great. They should have more. There needs to be more hip hop in racing. I don't know about you, but when like I play the F1 game and even in our league races that we do, especially in qualifying, I will listen to the shit out of hip hop while I'm driving. And it's the greatest thing. It's just like, no, you're just invincible. You're just like, okay, well, I'm listening to NWA and driving 200 miles an hour. Like, I don't think anything gets better than this. And I think it really does add like 3/10 to my pace every lap, like at least 3/10 to my pace.
But then the difficulty is when like your blood is like pumping, you've got like Kendrick, and you're like, I'm invincible, and then you go for a dive bomb like 7/10 behind someone, and then that's the end of the race.
Yeah,
I actually one of the saddest things I have is in my league races, I try and time it so like when the lights go out, the solo from The Chain is on, like the old classic Formula One song.
Yeah,
like was that in the US coverage as well?
I don't think so.
Like, oh, The Chain by Fleetwood Mac.
Oh, that used to be that's on the Checkered Flag podcast. They use that.
Yeah, that was the old, like, if you used to tune into the BBC in like the 90s to watch Formula One, that was like the intro music. It was so cool.
Oh, that's cool because they make it the intro music for the Checkered Flag, the BBC Checkered Flag podcast. So that's cool. I didn't know that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which is great. I think Jillian Palmer is a host on that. And a few others, if I'm not mistaken. Don't maybe name names, but that's a good one. That's a really good one. That's an actual like BBC. If you have to get your Formula One news,
official.
Yeah. If you have to get your Formula One news, get it from us, but then also get it from the BBC. But like us first, like because obviously.
I actually ghostwrite Jolene Palmer. I taught him how to kart, so I basically.
Dude, that's crazy.
Actually, seriously, I know some of my childhood. Best friend, shout out Owen.
Yeah.
I think his uncle taught Lewis Hamilton how to kart, which is really cool. Like, or like one of the people that taught him how to kart.
Yeah.
And he never because he hates Formula One. He's like, what's the point of this? And then he only told me sort of in passing, like it wasn't a big deal. I was like what? Like imagine like your uncle taught, I don't know, Michael Jackson how to dance. That's the equivalent of what you've just said to me. And he was like, yeah, it's just whatever. It's just go-karts, isn't it? Like, what?
Yeah, this is whose uncle?
My mate's uncle.
Your friend's uncle. That's crazy.
I'm pretty sure one of... And he just didn't take
I feel like if he taught Lewis Hamilton how to do that, he's owed some money at some point. He should get $1 million or two, you know.
His name was Nigel Man something. Yeah. No, it wasn't.
Oh yeah, no, that's who I'm ghostwriting for. Actually, that's with the mustache. I'm just, ghostwriting for Nigel Mansell.
You are Nigel Mansell.
Yeah. That's basically that's what I'm going for. Really, just Nigel Mansell cosplay. At this point, I'm gonna actually put. I'm trying to put. This is our first episode with video, by the way. So welcome to the Slipstream YouTube world. But I'm gonna put Nigel Mansell's FW14B up here, the 92, up behind. That's gonna be my backdrop. Cool. That's I think that's my favorite classic car, man.
Nigel Mansell's cosplay has to be the title of this podcast. Surely, there's no way it can't be.
Just change
Episode
it.
2, Nigel Mansell's cosplay.
Let's rebrand.
How have we gone to like from I think the Honda Power unit is looking really good to like I would cosplay as Nigel Mansell.
Dude, that's just the natural. It's like a podcast is like a river, you know, and to really enjoy the river, you got to let go of the sides and just float. Just float,
exactly.
Baby. Just let go. Get yourself on a good inner tube, or like a race. Get yourself on a good set of rubber, you know, and just enjoy the river. Just float down the river, you know. And so that's really what it's all about. But back to the Grand Prix, the Bahrain Grand Prix.
Grand Prix.
Yeah, man, a lot of really cool moments. I guess if we're going down the grid, Lando P4. Really solid, man. So good.
He looked really good. He was actually like my a bit unpopular. He was my driver of the day if I'd have picked.
Yeah.
Because like obviously Checo had a great comeback drive, but he's in the best car on the grid.
Yeah.
You know, if we'd have put Lewis or Bottas in that situation last season, we'd have expected about then.
Yeah.
But with because McLaren told Ricciardo when Checo was behind him, sort of do what you can to hold him up, because we're worried he get Norris, and he didn't hold him up for very long, but he was no threat to Norris whatsoever.
Yeah,
he made his move start. It was a really mature drive from Lando, you know, like uneventfully mature, and I think that's a way like he's known as sort of like the Joker and the laugh and the young kid, and that's fine. But I think there's a point with young drivers like that where you have to grow up. I'm sure he does take it seriously, but do you know what I mean? And I think this was almost like a bit of a coming of age drive from Lando, because if he can come in and take those P4s, P5s, P6s every week, you know, he will then look like a top driver. I think we all expected when Ricciardo came in for him to dominate Lando. And
1 second,
someone's excited. Wow.
I closed my dog in this room, or my roommate's dog, not even knowing that she was in here. So hold on.
That's fine. No worries, man. Dun, 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 intermission music. Dun, 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 dun.
Oh yeah,
that's one.
And
I presume this is going to be cut.
No, absolutely not. Let's keep. We gotta keep the dogs.
Oh damn! I was just dogs, riffing like some like elevator music. In the intermission.
Yeah, man, just riffing.
That's an Easter egg.
Yeah, there you go.
Needs that.
I got up to let her out of the room, and I realized that my right foot is asleep. So I just hobbled to the door over here, just trying not to shatter my ankle. You know, just
in
the middle of a podcast.
Like, if you catch that on camera, then we're going viral straight away.
Yeah, so. I really do think that's what would happen. I would keep going. I would muscle through, because
hell yeah, why not? Yeah.
Motorsport, it's about endurance, all right, and it's about keeping a calm head, and it's about recovering from mistakes. Really,
actually, I'm glad you brought that up. I wanted to tear my hair out in the week because I was debating with my friend. Like I saw a tweet that said Lewis Hamilton is the number one active UK athlete, and I sent it to my friends at home, and they were like, "No, he's not. You're not an athlete. Like F1 isn't a sport."
Bullshit.
How is F1 not sport, man?
Don't.
Like all you do is drive a car. It's like not a fucking Vauxhall Corsa, is it?
Okay, go do it. Yeah,
go on then, mate.
You get tired from just driving a normal car for 3 hours. What makes you think you wouldn't get tired? Yeah.
For the record, none of those people have a driver's license.
Oh, well,
so,
they don't.
It doesn't exactly. Yeah.
Do they not have a driver's license because they're too young to have a driver's license?
They are of age to have a driver's license.
Okay, they just don't. So, okay, well then their opinion. Hey, listen, James' friends who said that, your opinions don't count unless you get a driver's license. You can't have opinions about cars unless you're licensed to drive them. And
about anything.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was a dictator, you need a driver's license to vote.
Yeah. Listen, James' friends, get on the level. Okay, just get your act together.
Oh
okay?
Yeah.
No, I don't buy that at all. And of course you have friends that will be like, oh, it's not a sport. It's not a sport. It very much is a sport. That's cool. If it's not a sport, eat a double cheeseburger and some fries and then go do 20 laps in a 700 horsepower AT02 or whatever the hell, it's just like, try to go do it. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That's fine. Go do it. People just talk, man. They just say that stuff. I'm a lifelong golfer, and golf is one of the hardest sports known to man. But it's a sport. It's definitely a sport. Like you're using your body. I think anything where you use your body to achieve a goal, in the middle of competition, that's going to be a sport to some extent,
Yeah.
Just because you're not like running at other people full clip and colliding with them does not mean,
Yeah.
Just because you're not yeah.
Like competitive eating, I think is a sport. The amount of physical, I guess strength maybe isn't the word, but physical capabilities. I think esports are a sport.
Yeah.
Now this is probably where a generational thing comes in, but I think it's definitely a sport. You need so much. You need so much like physical, mechanical skill.
You do. So I don't see the difference. You need mechanical skill. You're right about that.
And then what's the difference between like esports and like snooker, which is definitely sport, or darts, which is
I don't know. I think those are kind of probably all on the same level. But it's definitely esports is not a sport in the sense that actual driving is a sport. I would say it's very, if you want to call it a sport, it's a sport because it's competition. But I definitely think you're pushing your luck, with because like actual driving, you're talking about multiple G's every single turn. If you actually kind of break it down and think about how they're locked into that seat. But your body is basically just, every single lap just doing this, and you can't just kind of go with it. You have to like hold yourself in place. So it's like that's why when you cut to like a photo of these guys, if they're changing or training or whatever, and they essentially just look like if a cheetah didn't have a shirt on, just like they're just like very much like lean. The body type is like lean and just nothing but muscle. Just you have to have some muscle on you, but they're not like jacked. They're not really. I can't really think of a driver on the grid that's like jacked. Actually, like most of them have like really small legs, which is surprising because I feel like you need to have a lot of like leg power, and I guess they do inside those small little legs, but like you got to have a lot of power for the brakes and stuff like that. So that's surprising.
Yeah, I can't think. I've always found like, who am I to argue? But like Bottas, I've always felt of all of them, he's the one that like least looks like an athlete. Yeah, but obviously he must be. I've never seen like Kimi Räikkönen recently shirtless.
Yeah,
but I think that'd be really cool to see a guy like
Kimi. He seems like the stockiest. Maybe I'm sorry to cut you off there. He seems like the stockiest. Kimi does. Definitely the most ice cold. If you're going.
Hell yeah.
Dude, I love his approach, man. How was your race this weekend, Kimmy? I was like, well, we raced. It was a car, and
It was fine.
It was fine. I raced, and I got 10th place. Which, by the way, Alfa Romeo, strong showing this weekend.
Yes. I think of all the teams, like they were the ones that impressed me the most.
Yeah.
They looked like a midfield car. You know? And what's a good sign, I would think, especially from the first race about the car is that both drivers looked pretty much equal, which to me means that the machinery is quite reliable and consistent. And I think they could. I mean, we put them. I put them 8th. You put them 9th last week, right?
I believe it. No, I put them. Let's see what I put them at. Where did I put them? I got my notes here.
Williams would jump. I thought we said.
I did put them 9th. You're right. Yeah, I did.
But now they look.
I'm underestimating them. I'm underestimating them this year. I think Ferrari's got a good engine. They got a good engine this year. Double points finish for Ferrari. Haas is just a shit show. So that no amount of good engine can just you can't put a Ferrari engine in a washing machine and just be like, this will score points. So, and essentially that Haas car is basically a washing machine. It's the same it's the same color as a Maytag. It's basically just a Maytag on wheels. And then you got a couple of rookies. But yeah, back to Alfa Romeo, they look great. Giovinazzi was consistent. If he can deliver that sort of consistency week in and week out, or 3 weeks at a time, the way the F1 schedule goes, he's going to score some points this year. He's going to have a lot better of a season than he did last year, especially if they got a car that can actually do the job. So not only does that car look good, it looks pretty promising. It looks like it was able to deliver Raikkonen up in the midfield, or at least close to it. So that was nice. It was nice seeing them up there. I liked seeing Lance Stroll in P10. I like seeing him kind of delivering, especially the first stint. He looked pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, everything else pretty predictable. I think Ferrari are definitely going to end up out delivering what I probably predicted them to do, which is you love to see it. You want to see. Yeah. You just always want to see Ferrari do well because they're the first team. They're just like the oldest team.
But was it Seb that said everyone's a Ferrari fan? I mean, I wouldn't call myself a fan of any of the drivers or teams. I want every race to be exciting, and apart from that, I don't care. I don't really care who wins.
Yeah.
But F1 isn't F1 without Ferrari.
Yeah.
Scoring wins, scoring podiums. I think their first win they get, like whenever that comes, is going to be so good. So good.
Yeah, it's gonna be like Tiger Woods coming back and winning the Masters.
Yeah, I'd love Leclerc to be given a car because I think the future F1, people are very much saying it's Verstappen to dominate, and I don't think that's wrong at all. But I think Charles has that capability to be right up there.
Yeah,
and I think that could be a real titanic battle. Is Charles versus Max. Obviously, you got Russell. If Gasly can get a great car under him, don't count him out.
Yeah.
I think the young talent in F1 right now is so exciting.
Leclerc,
Yuki can carry this up. Maybe you even count him in.
Yeah. What's going to be interesting is I feel like Schumacher and Yuki are pretty comparable talent wise, and seeing Yuki accomplish what he will be able to with this ATO2 package versus Mick in the Haas, and having to see him struggle like that, which isn't fun. You don't want to see anybody do that. You wouldn't wish it on anybody except for Nikita Mazepin. But
Nikita Mazepin.
Which, by the way, dude, I feel like at some point Mazepin, let's just cut him a little. Let's just cut him a little slack. Let's just give him. Let's let him go. Let's. He gets, you almost feel bad for him because he gets like, even the commentators are just like, Mazepin, ha 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 ha. It's like, oh man, like it's almost like they are playing him to be the villain, I guess. I'm always a person that tries to differentiate between what reality is and what's being presented in the media, because I think media always has its own agenda, and if you're not being wary of that in 2021, you're kind of half your foot's out the door and you don't really know what's going on. But at the same time, there's obvious reasons why he gets so much flack. But there's so much, just nobody likes him, man. There's not a single person that's like, you know what, I like Nikita Mazepin. It's just like, oh man, I feel like it's one of those things where being in that car will just be punishment enough for him just this year. It's just like he's got to drive a Haas. Like, oh well, yeah, he doesn't need any more flack from anybody.
Kid, yeah. Have you ever seen that video of Gordon Ramsay with the way he treats kids and the way he treats adults? I feel like that was everyone when like Mick's fun.
Yeah.
And then everyone when like Mazepin's fun.
Yeah.
Mick's fun, like, oh no, Mick, get out. It's all right, man.
Which is notable. Notable. They were both slippery coming out of turn 3 right there. They both got squirrely and both lost their throttles and just kind of pinned it a little too soon. Which I would expect that from Mazepin. I honestly don't know if he deserves to be in F1 yet. I just don't. I think it'll be a few races before I'm able to be like, oh yeah, he deserves a seat. I know Mick Schumacher deserves a seat, and I didn't necessarily expect him to kind of pin it in that car this weekend. So like it was kind of interesting to see both of them spinning that car, and Lord knows what's going on, especially if they haven't worked on that car much. And if they're still having the same suspension issues that they had last year, last year they had a lot of suspension overheating issues where it would just, the suspension would just be at risk of just falling off of the car. So, if they've still got that stuff going on, who knows what's going on with those power issues. But 2 rookies in the car, both spin out, one crashes out. Not the best start for Haas, but they kind of had to probably expect that hiring two rookies to go in a car that's definitely last.
I think it'll be very interesting actually on Mazepin. So we were planning on getting to this last episode as sort of just general hot takes we had, and one of mine was that Mazepin will not race every race for Haas this year.
Really?
And whether that's because he gets removed mid-season or he gets a race ban or like he gets COVID or something.
Yeah.
Everyone has covered the issues behind Mazepin, what he's done off track. Which is, I don't feel we can add much more to that. But I think what will be fascinating is, one, what happens if he does something else?
Yeah.
And 2, how long like this, we say no to Mazepin, carries on for? Because like if he actually ends up beating Mick this season, and then the Haas package is quite good for next year, and he ends up doing quite well. Mm-hmm. If Mazepin is in F1 for sort of 5, 6, 7 years and he's a solid midfield driver, will people, do you think people forget about this? Or do you think, do you think his career is almost ruined already?
I don't think it's ruined already. And I think if he cleans up, if he just acts like a professional athlete, not like the kid from John Wick that John Wick chases down in a spa. Remember that like Russian kid? There was like a Russian oligarch's son that John Wick chases down. And it basically is like it was like the John Wick version of Nikita Mazepin, where he's like having to like
exactly the same.
And if he just doesn't act like that guy and tries to, and not tries, I think he is putting in the work, but like if he puts in the work, I think, he's got a career ahead of him. I think he's kind of he has to learn. I think people forget how young these kids are, and there's a lot of expectation going on to him. But at the end of the day, his dad's a billionaire and he's young, and so I think there's expectations to be a professional athlete. And I think they're rightly placed. But at the end of the day, people have to realize and remember that these people are human beings, and they're gonna act like what happened with they're going to act like what they are, which are products of their environment. And if you're a rich kid that grows up driving race cars, you're probably going to be a little bit of a brat. And I'm surprised that Lance Stroll isn't more of one, right? He's just kind of like an exception. Right? Like it's just like
I think Lance Stroll is actually incredibly likable. He's a very, very like likable person. There's this weird like, so for the record, I hate F1 Twitter. Like F1 Twitter is very just like focuses on like the menial parts of the sport. Yeah. But I did see an F1 tweet that was like, an unpopular opinion is that Lance is a more likable person than Lando. Now, obviously, we don't know the two people.
No.
But off the track, Lando seems to be one of the most liked people on the grid.
Yeah.
But I sort of understand what they mean. in that Lando has like this almost, I say arrogance. If I was an F1 driver, I would be the most arrogant, dislikable person on the planet.
Yeah.
Because what are you going to say to me? I'm a multi-billionaire Formula One driver.
Yeah.
But Lance is, for his upbringing and everything, a really grounded kid.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that sort of the daddy's cash criticism to Christmas that he doesn't belong in F1 seem to have faded now. I think most believe that he deserves that seat. And actually, we haven't really spoken about it.
Yeah.
But his performance on Sunday looks really good now when you look at that Aston Martin, which really does not look good.
It doesn't look as good. I don't think it just showed how. I think they've got a good car. I think they're probably going to need to take the first 5 races to figure out what the hell's going on with it. I think it's kind of driving like a 2x4 at this point, and not like a 4-wheel drive, but like an actual plank of wood. Like it feels like they're just it's just kind of driving like a plank of wood. It's long. It is a long car. It's like a yacht out there. Like you're watching that. For some reason, that Aston Martin looks so much lankier. It's like the minute bowl of race cars. It just looks like so big. And it's
like the Ever Given ship of the Formula One grid.
It really is. It's got for a Mercedes engine, it's a lot. It just feels like a lot longer than the Williams. Like if you kind of flip back and forth between looking at the Williams, I think their wheelbase is a little shorter. So I don't know what the strategy is going into the season with making that car so long. I'm not an aerodynamicist. Apparently, they know what they're doing. But like, it just looks really long. It's like a long car. So I think they probably have a little bit of a learning curve on it. But yeah, I mean, going back to that topic, I don't think Mazepin's season is ruined. I just think he's a billionaire's kid that drives race cars, and he's going to have to learn how to be a professional athlete, because it is true. While I'm not a mob person in any way, if somebody's not a likable person, it really doesn't affect me that much. I really don't care, to be honest, because at the end of the day, I'm not watching racing to see who's the most likable. I'm watching it to see who's the fastest. I don't watch a movie to see who's the most likable actor on screen. I watch it because they're good at acting, So it's like my interface with them is the thing they offer to the rest of the world. And outside of that, it's kind of hearsay. I just think he has to learn how to be a race driver. I think there's definitely, all that being said, there's definitely expectations that you need to live up to, because whether you like it or not, there are a lot of kids, because I really don't care about the influence you have on adults, but there are kids watching always. There's kids watching shiny race cars, and they're going to pay attention to how you act on and off track, especially now with kids having so much access to information and being able to know what's going on with you off track a lot easier. You really do need to watch what you say and do. And I think he just didn't. The kid's in a bubble. That kid lives in a bubble. Anybody with that much access to resources and a family that Russian oligarch, you don't live in the real world, dude. You live in you literally, your house looks like Disneyland. So it's like, it's not like, it's not like he's going to know immediately. And I'm sure he's got just teams and coaches around him just being like, hey man, we got to cut out the, you just can't be groping people on Instagram, even if that's your friend, you can't. So it's I think it is what it is. I think it's a billionaire brat, and it's got to learn how to be a professional athlete. And if you can't, then bye-bye, because there really is too much at stake. But at the end of the day, likability it talks a lot less than money does. So I think he's got a spot at the end of the day. But I just think he needs to learn, just kind of pay attention to where he's at,
I think if he does one more serious thing, he's out. I think then the Haas position will be untenable.
Yeah.
Because then, maybe I'd say casual fans of the sport might not have followed the driver market and who Nikita Mazepin is as much. But now that he has become an F1 driver, and even the casuals will know who he is, if something happens, it will be immediately in the limelight.
Yeah,
I think then they will have no choice. But Sunday he had a shock. That is the only person to have a worse day at work than Mazepin on Sunday was the captain of the Ever Given ship, which That is, by the way, like undeniably. I love how the whole world has come together and just agreed that is a hilarious situation.
What?
You know, the number one trend in the US was hashtag put it back this morning.
Put the shit back.
There's a change.org petition to send another ship and get it stuck.
My favorite part about that whole ordeal was everyone online giving their 2 cents about what they would do to get the ship unstuck. Like
I would simply just drive the other way.
As if they have like any remote idea how to like unstuck a ship that's stuck in a canal, you know. So that was a pretty fun thing. They should have just they should have just. I think has someone put has someone photoshopped like an Aston Martin in place of the ship, because that'd be pretty funny. Just put
there's got to be like
an Aston Martin.
Like in the F1 game when you hit the wall and it's like lap invalidated, you've collided over the wall.
Yeah,
that's one surely.
I think somebody needs to Photoshop an Aston Martin in place of that ship, because that's about how their weekend went.
Same color, isn't it? It's the same sort of dark green.
Just about.
Yeah,
prettiest car on the grid. But yeah, definitely not the fastest, at least this weekend. Which brings me to a segment that I want to introduce every once in a while, and it's called Livery Talk.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, Livery Talk. Let's talk about liveries for a little bit, and we'll wrap it up, maybe give our predictions, but for the next race, I guess, at Imola. But look, Ferrari, what are you doing? You know, what are you doing with this new car? Well, it looks like you basically took your car from last year and then like dipped the end of it in cinnamon. And it's like some sort of like cinnamon dipped candy chocolate car that's like for sale at some Italian bakery somewhere. I don't know what's going on with that.
Do you not like it?
I don't like it at all.
I think it's all right.
I get the idea, which is bring back the Mugello tint. But it's just that red with regular red. I don't know, man. You know what? I'm biased. That 2018 paint job with the gloss is like my most favorite livery. It may be one of my most favorite F1 liveries in like this century. You know, like it just pops so hard. It's the first year with that halo. They actually were one of the few teams that used a finned out halo, like putting fins on top of it, and then made the halo gloss red and everything. I like that livery so much. I downloaded the 2018 game last night just to drive that Ferrari. And I got to tell you what, that game the steering is not, I don't like it. It's weird. It's weird.
I played F1 2012 and comparing it to now, it's like playing Mario Kart. It's terrible. It's so bad.
Really?
Do you think the Ferrari livery is worse than the grid?
I think it's the worst on the grid. Yeah. I kind of like every other livery. And then Ferrari is just kind of like garbage, you know?
I can't stand the Williams. I think the Williams is so... I can't believe I'm saying it's such a capitalist thing to say.
Yeah.
The Williams needs a big sponsor to me. It needs like a big, like the back of the car just has like the blue and white and the W of the Williams.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's nothing there.
You know, like
it's like a livery you make on my team on F1, F1 2020. It's so bad. I mean, the Haas one has actually grown on me. Yeah. A little bit.
Yeah.
I don't mind it.
Yeah.
And the Ferrari one's fine, but no, the Williams is really not good.
The Haas livery is nice. I think especially it looks good from the T-cam above when you're looking down the halo. Yeah. Like, this is cool. It's actually one of the cars that I'm like, and when the new game comes out, I'm like, I want to drive this one because it just looks cool. It just looks fast. It looks like a white bullet. The Williams livery is like jazz. I'm a jazz fan, but also at the same time, if you come at me and you say, I don't like jazz, I 100% understand your reason for not liking jazz, right? It's just like, I get it. I love it. I happen to love it. But if you don't, I also understand that, because for a lot of people, it just sounds like noise. So that Williams livery is the same thing. I like the
hipster's livery.
I think it's just, I'm biased because you went the hipster dig. Oh, come on. I deserve it with the mustache and the haircut. But gotcha. I look like I'm directing a film in Williamsburg or something like that. But so I understand it. But I like the yellow. I think, again, because I'm just biased, the FW14B is like one of my favorite cars of all time. So I like that kind of throwback. I do think it kind of looks like there's an airline here in the United States, and it only flies out of like Sarasota, Florida, and they're called Allegiant Airlines. And I think that livery kind of looks like like a value jet, like kind of Allegiant Airlines deal. So that's kind of funny. But other than that, I think everybody else looks really good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, did you just find it?
No.
If you're listening, if you're listening to this, look up Allegiant Airlines. You'll be like, oh, that's a Williams car with wings on it. So
it's the same.
I like it though. I think I've expressed this to you in private. I tend to really kind of favor like artistic like risks. Like I like when people kind of take risks. With Ferrari though, it just looks like if Helen Keller designed a car. It's like, what do you? Hey, we can't. There's green and like also it looks like a when a 5-year-old draws a race car. You know, like a 5-year-old.
The green is the one thing I'll go with you. I don't know what the hell.
Yeah,
it's like they have some Flovers.
Yeah,
on it. Like, what the hell's going on there?
Yeah, it looks like have you ever had a little kid draw a car and they come out to you and they're like, look at the car I drew, and you're like, this is amazing, but then you look at it and like the whole back of it's like a different color than the rest, and they like change halfway through, and for some reason there's green because it catches your eye.
This is so stupid. The aerodynamics makes no sense. I don't know what you would think. Yeah.
This looks like if a shoe had wheels, but this is great, Johnny. But I think everybody else looks really good. I love Alpines. Alpine is my desktop saver right now. Somebody got a really good shot of the Alpine this weekend in Bahrain, and I'll send you the picture after this, but it just looks so good. Dude, it looks so good.
French Vive la France as well.
And
so what are you thinking for Imola then? What's your thoughts?
Predictions? I don't know about the whole grid, but 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna go Verstappen, Hamilton, Checo. That's what I'm gonna do.
Yes, and because I always have to have like one stupid hot take.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have both AlphaTauri in the top 7.
Ooh,
because that was good. The Alpha was really good around Imola last season. Kvyat finished 4th. I think Gasly qualified 4th, but he had some engine trouble, had to retire. And that Alpha only looks better this year.
I'm writing that down.
I'm going to go super bold, both Alphas in the top 7.
Nice. I
want to say top 6, but then I think that implies a podium, and I can't quite see that.
I like it.
I think Red Bull have to, I know it's early in the season, but psychologically have to take the win here to, because otherwise I think Mercedes will then start getting that confidence and it will turn into like Red Bull catch Mercedes where they need to stamp home their authority a little bit more.
Yeah. Assuming Red Bull has a plan for their car for the rest of this year to kind of finish strong, I think they're in it. I think they're in it, and they've got a shot as long as they play their strategies right. They've got to learn. Verstappen's got to learn how to stretch his tires like Lewis does. He's almost there, but this weekend they didn't have the strategy down. They didn't have enough hard tires for him on Sunday. So I think he was like one set of hard tires down compared to Lewis. So for whatever reason, he didn't have the extra set of hards at his disposal like Lewis did. So I think they've got the car this year if they can keep up with the strategy, because Mercedes is always going to have something going on there, So I think they're going to be good to go. I think Norris is going to go P4 again, and I think that Bottas is going to be P5. I don't think this is a good track for Bottas. He didn't look good in Imola last year.
He was unlucky though. I mean, he had damage from the second lap.
Yeah,
I think he had a front wing stuck under him. I don't know. Who knows in the crazy, crazy world of Formula 1 what's going to happen.
It's all a toss-up, baby.
That is why we love the sport.
At the end of the day, all you've got is Formula 1 and Jasmine Rice.
Hell yeah. The Jasmine Rice pod. Man, we should have settled on that.
We just should have cut. We're just going to keep on bringing up Jasmine Rice. And if you get it, you get it. And if you don't, you're out, babies. It doesn't even matter. Look, we're good.
I'm going to reach out to every single rice company, Instagram food rice company that I can, and desperately try and get a rice sponsor for the next show. It would be my personal goal.
I think we should, throughout the course of the show, we should definitely just try to garner as many unrelated sponsors as we possibly can, like the race cars. Because you look at the race cars, you're just like, why is this a sponsor? Why is like a company that makes like olives for martinis like a sponsor for a race?
I mean, what the hell is an AlphaTauri? I don't know what that product is.
Build-A-Bear. You're like looking at a car. You're like, Build-A-Bear. Like what? I love that. Like I don't know if they're a sponsor of Dams this year, but F2, like KFC Indonesia is like a sponsor, which is hilarious.
Yeah, Playboy was a sponsor, I think, in F3.
MTV.
Can you imagine like Magnum Condoms Red Bull Racing?
Yeah,
that would be a livery amazing. I'd like to see.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. That'd be great. MTV was a sponsor. I think MTV sponsored the car of the gentleman who lost his life at Imola in '94, if I'm not mistaken. The weekend that Senna did, he was driving like an MTV car.
Ratsberger, I think his name was.
Yeah, Roland Ratsberger. I think he was driving an MTV car. If you're listening, fact check us on that because I'm not sure. I'll have to look it up after. But like, yeah, MTV was a sponsor for a while, so it's kind of a toss-up.
The weirdest one I ever saw was it a Toyota. A Toyota, or it might have been a Force India, was sponsored by like Chelsea FC, like the football club. Like, who's watching that? I'm like, yeah, you know what? I am gonna support that football team because it's on a car. What a strange sponsor that is.
Oh man, we're just gonna have T-shirts, they're gonna have our sponsors on them. We'll wear them every single show. And we'll just grow more and more sponsors on our sleeves, and you'll just be watching and being like, what are those sponsors for? It's like, that's for this Slipstream, baby. All right, James. Brought to you by Jasmine Rice. Yeah.
Uncle Ben's.
And Uncle Ben's, and for whatever reason. And also PlayStation. Why not? PlayStation.
And Codemasters, please. And Honda engines.
And Fanatec. Fanatec, sponsor us. We need new sim rigs.
Oh my God, please, Fanatec. I'm on my knees here, please.
Let's do it. James, it's been real. Any other last words before we wrap up this episode?
Please, Mazepin, just keep it on the track. Complete one lap next week.
Hey.
Or in 3 weeks' time.
That's Mazepin, keep your hands and your wheels to yourself. You know what I'm saying? And then you're good, baby.
Yes, sir.
Keep your hands and your wheels to yourself, and you're all good. You're made in the say, don't get killed by John Wick. You know, then maybe...
Hell yeah.
Maybe just don't get killed by John Wick. Keep your hands and wheels to yourself, and we're all good. That's the last word on this week's Slipstream podcast. We'll see you after Imola in 3 weeks. And until next time, everybody, keep pushing.